Halo. What was once considered a giant in the gaming industry is mostly a source of nostalgia and fond memories now. Anyone familiar with the Halo franchise knows it's gone downhill quite a bit since being taken over by 343 Studios in 2012.
Right now we're working on a few things. I mean, there's obviously the game side, but there's all of the other things we do like books and toys and things like that. All of those things now live under one roof, which is 343.
The new entries just haven't been up to par to the original games created by Bungie. While I'm hopeful for Halo Infinite, I kind of accepted the fact that Halo just might not be as good as it used to be, which is why I'm so excited that Halo is finally coming back to PC with the Master Chief Collection, as the games are slowly being released. To celebrate this, I went back to play Halo Combat Evolved for the first time through the Anniversary Edition in the Halo Master Chief Collection. Its release on PC is the perfect opportunity to say, fuck you, Halo 5 Guardians.
This is your one chance to come home peacefully.
It's time to take a look back at the original game, starting with its weird development. Bungie first began development of what would later become Halo all the way back in 1997. I was only a year old then and could barely hold my own head, let alone a controller, so obviously I didn't know or care about it. Initially, the game was meant to be a real-time strategy game, similar to Bungie's other series, Myth, but with a sci-fi theme instead of fantasy. As development went on, Bungie realized that the game was so large and the world was so detailed that it could really only be enjoyed from a third-person point of view, and the game slowly became a third-person shooter. While it underwent constant change during the development process, the game started to gain some interest. Apple's Steve Jobs was interested in using Halo as a sort of ambassador for what Macs could do. He even brought it to Mac conferences such as the 1999 Macworld in order to showcase its development.
We are starting to see some great games come back to the Mac, but this is one of the coolest I've ever seen. This game is going to ship early next year from Bungie, and this is the first time anybody has ever seen it. It's the first time they've debuted it. And so I'm very happy to welcome on the stage Jason Jones, who is the co-founder of Bungie and the Halo project lead. Halo is the name of this game, and we're going to see, for the first time, Halo. Welcome, Jason.
This is where the game really started to kick off an intrigue. However, at this point, Bungie was running out of money. Surprisingly, despite their close relationship, it wasn't Apple that came to the rescue. It was Microsoft. At the time, they were working on their new gaming console, the Xbox. As the new guy in the scene competing against veterans Sony, Nintendo, and Sega, I guess, they needed a fantastic lineup and a breakout title to accompany the console's release. Microsoft executives thought that Halo might just be the game they needed. They acquired Bungie, their staff, and Halo exclusivity along with it. With the cooperation of Microsoft, Halo's development really kicked off.
The Xbox is everything The Rock is. Cutting edge, powerful, exhilarating, and like The Rock, it will be the most electrifying thing coming out this year.
To take full advantage of the Xbox controller's design with the realistic trigger, it was decided that in order to make Halo as immersive as possible, it needed to play from a first-person perspective. So Halo Combat evolved yet again from a third-person shooter to a first-person shooter. Halo's mechanics revolutionized the first-person genre and really paved the way for future titles, an influence that can still be seen in literally every FPS since. After a rocky and weird development in November of 2001, Halo released alongside the Xbox's launch, 4 years after its initial inception. To no one's surprise, it ended up being a massive success, launching the console and franchise into the mainstream for decades to come. Fast forward 10 years to 2011, where we would see Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary be released for the first time on the Xbox 360. I picked this up back in the day, but for whatever reason it wasn't something I got around to playing a ton of, despite playing a lot of Halo 3, Reach, and even ODST at that point. Regardless, aside from the first couple of missions, I never really got around to playing it much. It was released again in 2014 as part of the Master Chief Collection, a then Xbox One exclusive title that included Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, Halo 2 Anniversary, Halo 3, and Halo 4. I was pretty tried and true to PC gaming at this point and never got around to getting an Xbox One. Even years later, I would get a used PS4 and a launch Switch, but the Xbox One just never really interested me. So for all these years, Halo went mostly unplayed for me. That is until 2019 when the Master Chief Collection was announced for PC with all the original collection games, as well as Halo Reach and Halo 3 ODST. Reach was the first Master Chief Collection title to be released on PC in late 2019 before Combat Evolved Anniversary released in March 2020. I'll get around to making a video on Halo Reach at some point, but for now, I'm excited to dive into the series beginnings for the very first time. For starters, Combat Evolved storyline is actually pretty good. It's a great introduction to the series' stories, characters, and world. You are thrown into the middle of an ongoing war between humanity and the Covenant, opening on the Pillar of Autumn, a United Nations Space Command ship being attacked by an alien race called the Covenant. You play as John 117, more commonly known as the Master Chief, the last known remaining Spartan 2 unit after the fall of Reach. Spartans are sort of superhumans having enhanced strength and defenses, often thought to be invincible by the public. Fallen Spartans are only ever listed as missing in action or wounded in action to keep the legend of the invincible Spartans alive to the public, but clearly that is not the case. At this point, the captain of the Pillar of Autumn. You know what, I'm just gonna drop the voice. At this point, the captain of the Pillar of Autumn initiates the Cold Protocol, destroying all navigation information on the ship to not allow it to get into the Covenant hands. Master Chief and his AI companion Cortana make it onto an escape pod where they are shot out of the ship moments before its destruction, only to end up landing on a mysterious ring with terrain similar to Earth. The Chief seeks out to find and save whatever surviving Marines he can, and in doing so learns that Captain Keyes successfully managed to crash land the ship onto the ring and had survived long enough to be captured by the Covenant. Yeah, he gets kidnapped. This man is the captain of a space army and still got captured. Cut Peach some slack. Master Chief sets off to locate the Covenant ship in an attempt to save Keyes. Upon doing so, Keyes informs him that the Halo, the ring that they landed on, has a stash of weapons that they need to get to before the Covenant. He orders the Chief and Cortana to get to Halo's control room in order to find out where the weapons are stashed. After a lengthy search, they eventually reach the control room where they learn that there isn't a weapon stash in the way that they thought, that instead the real threat hidden here is an ancient force called the Flood.
I am Flood, a flash liquidizer ultra-dowsing device.
No, not that Flood. This Flood. The Halo's AI 343 Guilty Spark is awoken and recruits Master Chief to retrieve the Index, the key to turning on Halo, which is actually a weapon built to destroy the Flood. Meanwhile, Cortana stays in the control room to research Halo in greater detail. Master Chief brings the Index back to the control room, only to have Cortana stop him as she has learned the truth. Halo is a weapon built to destroy the Flood by destroying their food source, aka all sentient life in the universe, as the Flood can feed on any living organism. As an AI, artificial intelligence, Guilty Spark is clearly okay with this and says, "Fuck you, Chief, if you won't do it, I'll find some other chump who will." Wait a minute, you're telling me the strange robot we found on a foreign planet in the middle of a war can't be trusted? What? Now Chief and Cortana come up with their own plan. The best way to keep humanity safe while still destroying the Flood is to destroy Halo by blowing up the remains of the Pillar of Autumn. They'll need Keyes' keys in order to do so they set out to find him. They return to the Covenant ship from earlier, except now it is infested with Flood and the captain is, under the weather. He's still essentially dead though, so Master Chief gives him a good Falcon Punch to the head to retrieve his neural implant, the key to initiate the Pillar of Autumn's destruction. Cortana uses it to enter the ship into self-destruct mode, but Guilty Spark interferes and stops it, accessing the complete history of humanity in the process. Cortana defaults to Plan B, manually forcing the fusion reactors on the ship to blow up. After initiating the reaction, they rush off the ship with just enough time to grab a fighter jet and escape Halo before its destruction. Cortana takes a scan of the galaxy and gives the news that they are the only living beings in the known area, meaning everyone else on Halo didn't make it out. The two make the return home to Earth, and the credits roll. Now, the story isn't perfect and can be quite confusing at points, but it was engaging enough to keep me interested in what was happening until the end. For the first game in the series, it really does introduce a lot, perhaps too much. To start, we have humanity versus Covenant. Good, simple, straightforward. Then we have humanity versus Covenant versus Flood. Okay, sure. Then we have humanity and Sentinels versus Covenant and Flood. Okay. And finally, we have humanity versus Covenant versus Flood versus Sentinels. My god, there are a lot of enemies in this game. Fun fact, if you piss off the Marines enough, they'll turn against you too. The debate on who's friend or foe only gets more confusing as the game goes on, and is a problem that carries through the next 2 entries as well, so you might as well get used to it. Locating the secret terminals does add an extra layer to the story and really helps to introduce the underlying plot, clearing some things up. It's definitely worth the time to look for them. If you miss one in the first run through of a level, you can head back on easy and find them with little trouble if you know where they are. That being said, the levels are sometimes so poorly designed that this becomes quite the task, and it is easier to just look them up online if you just want the story explanation. Speaking of level design, it ranges from just okay to very bad. First, I want to absolutely shit on it, and then I will try to justify it. The levels overall feel way too drawn out. Most have you go through identical sections over and over again with little to no variety. Almost every location is either backtracked or revisited at a later point in the game. There are multiple levels throughout the game that just use rehashed maps with a slight twist. It's tedious and makes the game feel more drawn out and like a slog to play at times. Now, to defend this, as I mentioned earlier, Bungie not only ran into financial trouble towards the end, but they also had to rush to get the game finished in time to release alongside the Xbox. So in order to save time to meet development dates, many assets such as level design were reused. Some were used a bit more creatively, like the Pillar of Autumn from the first level being remade into a crash site, and the last level, the Maw. This one actually has a bit more of a symbolic meaning as well, as the game literally comes full circle from beginning to end. That being said, there are also levels like the library that are just so poorly designed and long that they had to add arrows on the ground to tell you where the hell you're going. Some levels felt perfectly paced, while others felt like they extended it just to try and fluff the game time out a bit. It's not unbearable, but it can be tiresome, especially when some of the coolest moments of the game, like the sniping section in Truth and Reconciliation, is cut short, only for the second half of the level to consist of running around a Covenant ship for 20 minutes. While the story really couldn't be changed on the re-release, the Master Chief Collection does a fantastic job of making the 19-year-old game look comparable to modern standards. It obviously isn't a new title, but it does hold up well. For those that prefer the original art style, a flick of a button can fluidly swap between the old and remastered graphics at any point in the game. While Halo is in no way meant to be a scary game, I do feel that the original graphics give the game a whole different atmosphere. It's darker, grittier, and harder to follow. It's weird to think about how different the game feels from such a minor change. While the original graphics feel more like any early 2000s shooter, because it was, Halo has really developed its own unique and recognizable style over the years, and that can really be seen with the remastered graphics. Not to say there's anything wrong with the original, I'm sure a lot of people do prefer them, and they definitely do have that Halo feel to them. I just personally feel that the Halo brand really shows out more in the remastered graphics. While we already got a little taste of the music at the beginning of this video, I do want to say that the soundtrack to this game is incredible. Every track is an orchestral masterpiece that accompanies each section of the game perfectly.
Good. Let's get moving. The nav point marks our target.
Bungie audio producer Martin O'Donnell composed the soundtrack for this game, with what would become the series' main theme being written and recorded in a span of 3 days. He wrote some of the most iconic music in gaming history in just 3 days. The absolute mad lad. Since then, the series has had an iconic sound that it is known for. The meaniness of the gun, the bang of a melee attack, the screams of a grunt running away when you've killed all the surrounding elites. It is all so well executed and distinguishes Halo from other more traditional military shooters.
The gameplay overall feels really solid. I didn't have any major complaints with the combat. It felt pretty on par with what I remember from Halo 3, which I replayed with friends only last year. There are a few features that aren't introduced until later games that threw me for a loop, like the ability to hijack enemy vehicles, or to have an AI ally drive the Warthog while you take control of the turret, but these are very minor points. Most of these show how the games really did improve with each sequel. The ability to run or boost in vehicles would have been really nice to make the game feel a little bit faster paced though. The game also really lacks weapon variety. I found myself only ever using the assault rifle to deal with massive amounts of infection form flood, along with the magnum or shotgun to deal with elites and combat flood. Speaking of magnums, my god they are broken. You can lay every drop of ammo you have in a hunter with an assault rifle and never kill it, but one shot in the back with a magnum and they're down. It's stupidly powerful and so satisfying to use. On the flip side, the biggest disappointment was realizing that while some elites have energy swords, they are greedy bastards and do not drop them upon death, so they aren't usable in this game.
Of course, Halo is known for its multiplayer as well. I dabbled in the multiplayer a bit, playing an occasional match here and there, and while I'm not quite up to the competitive level required to, get consistent kills, I did have a great time playing and was even able to carry my team to a mediocre loss in quite a few matches. Halo Reach's online is really fun and more polished, but it doesn't give the same sense of nostalgia that any of the original games do. I didn't get to play any co-op this time around, but if you played co-op in any Halo game, you know what to expect. The same fun campaign, just experienced with friends. Halo really is a fantastic series despite its quality having gone down in the more recent entries. If you missed out on it in its heyday, you might never get the same experience from playing it now compared to growing up with the games as they released, even if you came into it a little late like me. That being said, I do think that the game holds up really well and that people will be able to find enjoyment from playing it for the first time today. It's incredible to see the influence this game had on the genre and on the gaming industry as a whole. Who knows, without it, the original Xbox might have flopped just as hard as the Xbox One. Series like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Mass Effect, Fallout 3 onwards, all came out after Halo, and in one way or another, you can see the influence Halo had on each of them. The Wikipedia article for first-person shooters breaks up the genre in years, and it comes as no surprise that Halo is the first game in the 2000 to 2008 era of shooters, as it really did kick off a new age of games. Not sure why the section ends at 2008, as 2008 onwards is still really similar, but hey, it's Wikipedia, it's not an academic source or anything like that. All that being said, keep in mind that this isn't a review. I'm just talking about different aspects of the game, how well executed they are, whether or not you should buy. Okay, it's kind of a review. But I'm not giving you any scores out of 10. I'm not going to tell you buy now, wait for a sale. I just really enjoyed the game and I wanted to talk about it. Sue me.
I'm filming this outro a few weeks later, so my hair's short. Once quarantine lifted up a little bit, I managed to get a haircut. So yeah, that's why I might look a little bit different now. I also didn't set up any lights or anything, so it's not as nice. Maybe it is, I don't know. Either way, thank you for watching this video. I really enjoyed making it, especially looking back at Halo, a series that I personally really love, and seeing where it started, not just with the actual gameplay, but the development cycle and everything surrounding that. I thought it was very fun to look into that and make this video, so I hope you guys also found it as interesting and enjoyable to watch. Please subscribe if you liked this video. I do plan on making more in the future, so yeah, keep an eye out. Thank you.